Hi, I'm Kacey.
And I'm Gianni.
I never finished reading the Animorphs books as a kid, and I still haven't as an adult.
And I've never read them.
We can't tell you where we live.
But we can tell you that we want to revisit these books as adults and dive into what we would keep or change if we were to put it on TV.
Two friends, 50-something books. Welcome to Morphin Buddies.
And then the music kicks in, and then people are just so ready.
Hi everyone, welcome to Morphin Buddies. I'm here with my partner and co-host,
Gianni DeMaia. What? That's
Yay!
me. I'm talking in the third person.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
And then you have to introduce yourself, of course.
Yes, I am Kacey, and this is our first episode of Morphin Buddies, where we are going to go over the books and the series and then talk about what would work if we were creating our own TV show about it, and what we like, what we didn't like. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
excited to get into it. This should be really fun.
So again, Gianni, you have no experience with any of these books.
Zero. Well, I mean, I guess maybe like 1% experience, because like I know of them peripherally from what my brother had experienced in his youth.
The Utes.
When he was a Ute, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's Power Rangers, but they turn into animals,
and no karate.
No karate, not yet. No karate, not yet. I still have high hopes, but there is But yeah, I would say that my peripheral knowledge of Animorphs thus far, and now granted we've only read one book, but thus far that is mostly accurate. That's pretty much what has happened thus far.
Awesome.
Where it goes from there, though, who's to say?
Who's to say?
But of course, tell the people your experience with the Animorphs, because you're the whole reason that we're even doing this show.
Yeah, I really wanted to do this show just from a perspective of kind of like we're both amateur film critics, that we enjoy taking apart movies and seeing what works, what doesn't work, how do the themes play into the character arcs and things like that. And I haven't really seen a podcast that really goes into that stuff, quite that specific type of thing. So I talked to my good friend Gianni, and since he does it all the time on his own podcast, the Bad Movies Podcast, you should check it out. It's really cool. I'm on a few episodes. And I thought we would be a good pairing for this. And I thought maybe he would enjoy it. If he hates it, sorry, you're committed now.
Yeah,
so.
Committed to 54 fucking books. Yeah, no, I'm in it. I love reading, even bad stuff. And this was not bad, for the record. Not to get out to like spoiler territory for our thoughts, but I don't mind. Yeah, who's to say when we get to the ghostwriting stuff, which I'm almost more curious about than anything, but we'll cross those bridges when we come to them.
All right. So I guess we should just kind of go through what happens in this book and then just talk about our thoughts and feelings afterwards, and
love it.
Go from there. Do you want to start us off? First off, what's the title of this book? Do you remember?
Yes. Okay. So the first one is called The Invasion. Is that right? Yes. The Invasion.
And do you know who's on the front?
I'm assuming it's our little main character, Jake, because he turns into a lizard at a certain point, and of course the front cover is a literal child turning into a lizard.
Literally a 1999 CGI boy turning into a lizard.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because in my brain, like looking at these covers was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah. And then I'm looking at it now and it's horrifying. This is the scariest cover I've ever seen. This is freaky, dude. He's also a literal child, and I cannot emphasize that enough. Because when you read the book, you had said something like this when we were talking briefly yesterday, that they were supposed to be like 12 or something like that.
I think they're supposed to be right around between 10 and 12.
I was like, yeah, that checks out to me. But I think that my understanding of what a 12-year-old is like is like a 16-year-old, because then looking at this literal 12-year-old, I'm like, good God, that is a child. That is a little baby boy. That is a literal
baby
infant.
boy.
I want to just like hold him close and tell him it's all going to be okay, but he's a lizard. So it's really it's a conflicting sort of emotions in looking at the cover. But anyway, the actual book itself, yeah, so full disclosure, I had said this to Casey before we actually started recording, but I am so bad with the names thus far.
That's
so
fine.
you'll
I'll
have
help
to
you
forgive
out.
me as I refer to each of these people. We're introduced in the first chapter to, of course, Jake. He has some things to say in regards to where he's at now, because he's talking about these events as they're in the past, and
Yeah.
he's very much like, I can't tell you my real, like, where I live or whatever. I can't remember if he says I can't tell you where, like, what my name is. I think, is
He's
Jake a
like,
fake
I
name?
can't
I
tell
can't
you
even
my
remember.
last name or like where I live.
Right.
Which you're gonna get real tired because all the books open with this same monologue from
Really?
every single book is, I can't tell you where I live. I can't even tell you the state that I live in or what
It's so
direction.
funny because the events of the book are so specific that if anybody even knew a little bit, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's Jake Browning or whatever." Like
Yeah.
you'd be immediately like, "Oh yeah, I know that
Jake
guy. He lives in
Brown.
Kansas." Yeah. Backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jake Browning. But yeah,
Yeah, and also
so
the geography as they travel to different places gets a little muddled. I think my assumption is that they live somewhere in the Northwest. Not 100%
yeah,
certain because
sounds right to me.
they're close to the ocean. In one of the books, they go to the ocean. Full disclosure and reminder, I haven't finished these books. I've only read like maybe into the mid 40s and then I just never stuck with it.
I think that's still more
But
than
that's still, yeah.
at least 99% of people uh, who know about the Animorphs enough to click on this podcast. I
Honestly,
think
probably.
you're still an expert. You're still an expert
Thank
in
you
my
so
mind.
much, Gianni. But
But yeah, I'm geographically challenged, so they can play fast and loose with this, and I'll be like, yeah, for sure, we're in New York, or actually we're in Texas. I don't care.
or
You know what I mean? It's
Brazil,
all
who
the same.
knows?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true.
They
Yeah,
could
wow. Oh
be
my God,
English
my
speakers in
European
Brazil.
bias is showing. But, my so anyway,
Anyway,
Jake introduces us to the concepts of oh he's there's, what do they call them, the Watchers? No, it's not the Watchers. There's the something everywhere, the
oh, the
controllers,
controllers.
he
Yeah,
calls them.
yeah.
There's controllers everywhere, so he has to be very careful about what he can and can't
Hmm.
say. But he's going to tell us this story.
And it's
So
essentially controllers
immediately,
are like
I'm in.
invasion of the body snatchers. They are being controlled by
Yeah,
Yerks, which is a
yeah,
creepy gray slug that slides into people's ear holes, gets over their brain, and controls all their movements so they're not like a real person.
yeah. An allegory for depression. But moving on. No, sorry.
Look, I didn't
But
see
so
any
Jake,
controllers staying in their beds crying the whole book, Gianni, okay?
yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Maybe it's more.
These are
It's something
motivated
else. But
controllers.
but so Jake, of course, is introducing us to his immediate friend group, who are going to be the other sort of central protagonists of the story. There is, and you'll refer to them by their actual names,
Yes.
but it's his best friend, who's kind of a dick.
Marco.
Yep. His other friend, who he kind of likes but is a nerd.
Tobias, the loner.
Yeah, yeah. Then there's his cousin, the girl.
Rachel. Xena
Yeah,
Warrior
okay.
Princess. You're
And
going to get
then
tired of that too. Every book.
Xena Warrior Princess, love
Every
that.
single
Okay,
book.
and then the girl that he has the hots for.
Cassie.
Yeah. Okay. So then those five, they are all walking home one day from
Like the
various
mall.
places within the mall.
Yeah.
And they wander upon the sort of, like, I don't know, outskirt train
Yeah, it's like some
place,
kind
like
of
abandoned train
abandoned construction
facility.
site.
Yeah, like the last place I would ever want to walk if I was a literal child.
Mm.
But, who knows? These Northwesterners, they play fast and loose in Forks, Washington, I guess. And so they're wandering through the train tracks, and they see a UFO.
What?
And there's this crazy moment. This is like super in the weeds,
Yeah.
but maybe this is what people listen to the podcast for. I don't know. But I don't know if you remember this, but there's this crazy fucking moment where they were like, yeah, it's not that big. It's like the size of a school bus. I was like, dude, that's huge. I was like, have you ever been on a school bus? It's a big. He was like, it's not that big. I'm like, dude, what are we overcompensating for? That's a big space. If I saw a school bus flying in the sky, I would be like, that's a huge. Like that's
No,
crazy,
that's huge.
right?
Yeah,
like a
that's
school
very
bus
large.
is big.
Yeah.
That automatically I was like, what in the world? By the way, I live in New York City,
Yeah.
so you're just hearing sirens just nonstop. What's super funny, and you can edit this out, Casey,
I don't care.
but this is just 100% true. Every time I'm not recording a podcast, dead silent over here.
Of course.
It's only whenever I'm recording something that they just decide, actually, the world is falling apart.
Let's start
in
all the
every
fires
block around
now
me.
while he's working. And
Yeah. They do it on purpose.
Yes.
I'm telling you, they do it just for me. But so they see this UFO, and they're like, I don't know what to do about all this. They're just kind of frozen, stunned, but like a little too excited to like just leave. All of a sudden, this voice starts talking to them in their heads,
and they all hear it, and they're like, what?
Lo and behold, UFO lands. All right. This dude walks out. He's got these like deer antlers, and he looks like a little alien, little freaky guy.
He doesn't have antlers, but he does have stalk eyes on top of his head.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like this little.
Yeah.
So he walks out, and I'm gonna just butcher this
fine.
name, but
Do it.
they call him, okay, Axamil?
No.
Esgaruth Isthil?
Gianni.
Is what Wikipedia is telling me
Gianni,
his name
that's
is?
the wrong Andalite. You're talking about a different character
Never
that
mind.
we haven't met yet.
That guy? Okay, so anyway, I'm on Wikipedia to try to find these names.
Elfangor is the one that we meet.
Is
yes.
that the guy?
That's the guy.
He's not even on this. He's
'Cause
not even
he-
on this list. Where is this guy?
Oh my God.
This freaking guy. So anyway, he's.
Elfangor is a
But anyway,
warrior Andalite. What does he look like? Do you remember the
who am I reading about?
No,
I
don't
even
look
know
at
this
don't
dude.
look at Axamili yet. You're not there yet. You're not
All right,
there
I'm
yet.
not looking at it. I'm literally just on a character list, so it's not even telling me anything
Yeah,
about
no,
these
you're
people,
not there
so don't
yet.
worry. I'm not getting any future
Yes,
spoilers.
absolutely not.
Okay. I just assumed because he was right under Marco, my
Your
friend
buddy-
Marco,
your buddy.
who I totally remembered the name of. So anyway, whatever. This guy's name, who I can't
Elfangor.
remember, he comes out. He's got these eyes
got
on
stalk
a little
eyes.
stalk on his
got-
head. He's dying from a nondescript
Yes.
wound. Everybody is like, "Oh my god, this guy's dying."
Well, he
I
just
guess.
came from a battle.
He's-
He just crash landed from a big battle he was participating in against the Yerks. So they damaged
Yeah.
his.
We're playing fast and loose with the term "crash landed," but yes, I because they do say that. You know, even my brother was like, yeah, I remember like the crash landing and all that. And I was like, you know, he kind of like just kind of drops the ship down, like it's like pretty polite. But yeah, we can call it crash
ship
landing.
landing.
yeah, it's like for as far as crashes go, I would say it's pretty like on a scale from like 1 to Sully, I would say it's pretty much
It's very
like a 2.
mid-tier crash landing.
Yeah, but he comes down. He's dying. He's trying to just rattle off all the
Lot of
exposition that you're
exposition,
going to
lot
need
of
to know
exposition.
for. It is just everything that he could possibly say. He's like, we don't have any time. But basically, here are the bullet points. There's these things called the Yerks, which you had talked about before, the little slug guys. They're going into people that are controlling their bodies. He talks about a million different things that I'm going to forget, a whole bunch of them. But I'm just...
Well, they're an alien race that are trying to take over Earth.
Yes.
Because they see them as viable hosts.
Yes.
And they just, the species is essentially a parasite where they just need a body to live in so they can exist. But that comes at a price of that body's freedom.
Love it.
Essentially.
Exactly. They talk about Yerk pools at this point too, right?
Yes.
Like he's talking about how every couple of days they gotta leave their host body to go regenerate their power. I don't know, their thing, whatever.
They gotta eat.
Yeah,
they gotta eat.
Gross little slug guys. And then
it's like every 3 days they have to go and feed in the pool like a massive slug orgy, and then they go back in the person's head after like an hour. That's how they
slug
eat.
Orgy is great.
That's kind of what a yerk pool is.
Love it. Ugh. Okay, so they all like slime together, and they just kind of like rub on each other's little slug bodies in a little wet pool, and then they slug on out and back into their little host. So he goes over all that in graphic detail, just like no, you kind of just glosses over the bullet points. He talks about. Let me think. What other important things? Oh yeah. So I guess the most important thing, he's like, you're gonna have to do whatever you can to stop him, because I don't have any time to stop him. I'll give you.
And they're like, we're kids.
Yeah, and he's like, shut up. No, he's totally nice. I'm making that up. I'm totally making that up. He's a very nice guy. For a guy who's dying, I think I would have lost my patience.
He's pretty nice.
But yeah, he's pretty great guy. But he's like, just go into my ship and get this. I'm gonna call it a box, but it's not a box. But get a thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little blue box about like this big.
It's a little Power Rangers morphin thing.
Yeah. Little cube of sorts.
So Jake goes in, and he grabs this little box. And he also notices that the guy's got like a bit, like this was so bleak and did not need this
family
detail.
Portrait.
But he's got literally a picture like of his family. I was like, you did not need to include this. It's so dark for no reason. It's just like, oh my god, he's got a family and their pictures look just like us. It's terrible. So then he walks out.
Mom and dad and little brother. Yeah.
He walks out. He's got the box. Basically, this guy. What the hell's the guy's name again? I already forgot it.
Elfangor?
Yeah. So Elf.
Or Jake.
So Elf is. It's got
Elf,
the box.
Just Elf.
Yeah. Will Ferrell's Elf got the box. He says. He's like, all of you, touch the box or whatever. It'll give you the abilities that we have. As the Andalites, I'm saying that right? The Andalites?
Yes, Andalites.
Okay, so the Andalites, you'll all get the ability of the Andalites, which essentially, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just the way I understand it, but it's like you touch an animal, and you can take on the shape of that animal through like some inheritance of their DNA code, essentially.
Yeah, you acquire their DNA into your body.
There's rules for this. They're very weirdly specific rules. He says you can only stay in it for 2 hours. Which I did find very funny that this intergalactic alien is basing time on Earth's Central Time, where he's like, it's very specific to this.
And he also says 2 of your Earth hours, which is, so I wonder if hours on his planet are different as to what hours. And so their time limit is essentially the same as 2 of our hours.
I just assumed, and I'm sure this is probably how other people would just like explain it away as like just a basic plot hole, is because I just thought he's speaking to them telepathically, so I would just assume that like the telepathic
because he doesn't have a mouth.
just inherits some general knowledge and worldview or understanding of like how they speak. That was just my guess. Who am I? Who am I to say that Applegate was just not like whatever? It's just fucking 2 hours. That's just what they're throwing at the walls like spaghetti to see what sticks.
That's enough time.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds appropriate. So then, so he says you got 2 hours in each of this before you have to revert back to yourself. Otherwise, kind of bad things could happen. The implication is, spoilers, I guess, for the rest of the book, but the implication is like you'll get stuck there, right?
You'll get stuck in that morph for the rest of your life, and there's no way to undo it or like acquire any other animals. You're just stuck in that morph,
which sucks, I guess.
Yep. Especially
unless
if
you
you're
just really like it. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you're a slug, I don't know. You could have some cool, slugging around to do. So, what are the other rules of this?
Yeah.
So he doesn't say this at this point, if I can
Uh,
recall, but there is like because I was wondering this, but I think Jake says it later that
mm,
the animals kind of go into like a trance when you touch them, which I
yeah.
guess is just kind of a fun,
It's kind of a cool
I
thing.
don't know, kind of a thing that just
Yeah.
kind of happens. They're just, I don't know, aware of it.
Hmm.
So he's saying all this. This other alien ship
A
starts coming into
bug
the view.
fighter.
Freaky little thing
Mm,
comes right down on him.
mm,
Um, our boy Elf is like, "Go hide."
yeah.
He still keeps the telepathic link up so that he could tell them information about this bug fighter as
But
they.
before they run away, who stays with Elfangor a little bit longer? Do you remember?
Isn't it Tobias?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Tobias. They hold hands for a second because Tobias becomes Mr. Exposition later
Yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
this happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
They kiss a little bit, and then he runs back and hides. Freaky little dude, Tobias. I love Tobias for the record. He's my favorite character. The freaky little dude.
oh, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like Tobias is the best character in all the books.
Oh, no way. Okay,
So
cool. Because
I love
Tobias was
him. I
sick.
love him.
I like him. He's
Yeah,
just he's just a little freak, dude. I mean, who would?
he's a little freak, sad boy.
Yeah.
Nobody loves him.
Oh,
He just can't
well,
fit in anywhere.
somebody loves him because
Somebody
he was
loves
hitting it
him.
off with Jake's cousin a little bit. They
Rachel.
were having some eyes a little bit. They were nuzzling
They're
up on
they're
each
making
other.
eyes at each
I
other.
caught some of that. I was picking up on what they're putting down
Yeah.
there, setting up some relationships to be worked through, to be massaged
Yeah.
out. So these aliens come out of this ship. He's rattling off names that,
Yeah.
I mean, Lord help me, I couldn't even try if I wanted to. You could put the list right in front of me and I still wouldn't know exactly what names we're talking about here. But he's got all kinds of different alien species that are walking out of the
So
ship. He's saying they're controlled
it's
by
actually
Yeerks and stuff.
two.
Is it really? I don't know.
It's two different species.
They were all, there was like a big
Actually,
one,
so
there was another
yeah,
one.
so there's Hork-Bajir,
Mm.
which are like giant, like 7 foot tall walking lizards with beaks and like sharp razors jutting out of different parts of their bodies. They're
Brilliant.
very tall. They have hands and they're essentially built like humans, except lizard people with blades coming out of all parts of their bodies. Which actually, fun fact, this is gonna make me sound real nerdy. Hork-Bajir, I think you'll learn later, they were a peaceful race and they used the blades on their bodies to scrape bark off of trees to eat it. So they're actually like a really peaceful race, but their planet got invaded by the Yeerks, and then all of them were taken over by the Yeerks. So it's very
Wow.
sad. It's very sad for that race to be used so violently by the Yeerks, even though they may look crazy dangerous, they're actually very gentle creatures. So you can imagine how
Mm.
torturous that must be for a peaceful animal to be killing people and shredding people and things like that. And then
Yeah,
the other
but one
one,
could argue they're not living up to their potential. You know what I mean? You got little razor blades for hands. I say you gotta chop suey and people left and right. You know what I mean? You
they
gotta
keep
get to
calling
work.
they keep calling them walking salad shooters, which I don't think anybody uses those anymore.
It's
I
so
don't
specific.
think I don't think anybody in Gen Z or Gen Alpha is going to know what a salad shooter is.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
even now, I couldn't really.
it's a hazy memory for me.
Mm,
And then the second race are taxons or taxons. I don't know how you pronounce them properly.
sure, sure.
Whatever your preference is. They're like giant, disgusting centipedes, and they got a bunch of buggy little eyes and a giant mouth with a tongue lolling out of it. These things are like 5 feet tall, like 10 feet long, with like a million little crab legs on their upper body, which they hold upright, and then their lower body is just a bunch of legs.
Mm,
And taxons have, they were voluntary hosts for the Yerks. So the Yerks came down and they were like, hey, we can feed you whatever you want if you join us. And they're like, sure, because for taxons, their whole purpose is just to eat, and they can eat
mm,
themselves to death. And it's a strong instinct in their brain of like, I need to eat, I need to eat, I need to eat. So
mm.
They will eat literally anything. They are garbage disposals. And they were a voluntary host to the Yeerks. So.
I relate to that. I'm human garbage disposal myself. So Taxons,
Oh,
Taxons and me,
congratulations.
we just get it. You know what I mean? We just,
You and the Texans.
yeah, no, if the Yeerk came down to me, I'd be like, listen, you're telling me I can just chow away all day? Sign me up, brother. You don't got to convince me. Don't twist my arm.
You'll eat the dead bodies of your companions. Like, if you had a brother Taxon right next to you and he got shot, you'd start eating his body without any thought because...
Dude, I don't think it would take me long at all. I always think about this on, like, a desert island. I think I'd last, like, a day of being hungry before I'm like, listen...
It's time to die.
How much do you really need your leg? You know what I mean? It's my best of friend. It wouldn't be anything personal. It's really just, general hunger.
Well, why can't you just eat your own leg?
I mean, it would be in consideration. I mean, it would depend which friend I'm with. I'm like, because my gamey leg versus like a nice little... chunk of something, I'm all my friends who got them thick legs. You know who you are.
You got them chunky calves.
Yeah, you got them nice things. You know what I'm saying? So, Visser 3 though is the main bad guy for this book.
Do you know what he is?
He's also an Andalite, right?
Yes.
Or he's in the shape of one. I don't know if he actually is.
He is the only Yeerk-controlled Andalite to ever exist. There has never been an Andalite. Yeah. So the Andalites and the Yeerks have been at war for like years, for like ever, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, just get over it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, that's terrible. No, no, I get it. It's probably bad. I'm sure
because they're trying to prevent the Yeerks from taking over all the species that exist within space and the universe, because they want people to have their freedom. But that kind of brings up the question of like, don't these creatures like deserve to survive as well, because they are alive and they can't survive without a host. So, where is the line? Where do you so it's a moral conundrum that a later book will talk about also. So I don't want to get too into it now, but that's just a little interesting seed I will plant in the dirt there.
Love it.
Yep.
Love the seeds. I can't wait to see them sprout.
Oh,
so, Visser 3, main bad guy, he walks on out. He's talking shit, dude. He's talking big time shit. He's blasting it out on the airwaves through his little telepathic control so everybody could hear it. And then he eats our friend Elf. He eats him.
He
completely
morphs
whole.
into a giant spidery thing, I think, with like 8...
just something with a huge gaping maw.
Oh, maybe it wasn't the spider thing yet. Maybe that's later in the book. But he morphs into something giant, some giant alien creature, and he lifts Elfangor up in the sky, and he goes, nom, 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 and eats him.
Yeah, he says that too. He says, nom, 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 nom. And so the kids just watch in horror.
Yes.
Scarred forever. They'll never get over it.
Yeah.
And then a huge chase breaks out.
Yeah,
because the kids get found.
Yeah, they think they
also, one of the species can't see, right? There was like that whole little bit.
They don't have great eyesight, but they have really great hearing.
Right.
So.
And because I think Jake at one point is like, I can't believe they can't hear my heart pounding in my chest. Lo and behold, they shortly thereafter kind of did. So, there's this huge chase scene breaks out. Kids narrowly get away. But now the bad guys know that someone was there.
Yep.
They want to kind of rein in on this and figure out who it was. But meanwhile, the kids try to sort of go back to normal life. But Tobias is a little freaky dude, so he's like, dude, guess what I did?
The next day, he goes to Jake's house in the morning.
Yeah, he's like, I turned into my cat. It was friggin' crazy, dude. So then he teaches Jake how to turn into Jake's own dog.
Yeah.
And so there's like a couple more rules to this little Animorph thing, which is that you still retain your faculties, like you could still think yourself, but you also think like the creature you are.
You gain the animal's instincts. Yeah.
So like when Jake's the dog, it's very specific to
Happy.
be like he has kind of dog thoughts. And so like he's told he's a bad boy at a certain point.
And it's a little bit
great, you know.
It's a little bit hard for him to control those thoughts and instincts at first because it's a new morph. Like they don't really know how an animal is going to feel essentially, or what their instincts are until they morph into that animal, which is why it could be dangerous, because you could lose yourself in a morph and not be able to snap back into it, and then boom, you're stuck in that morph if you don't get control.
Yeah. Allegory for puberty.
Ah, smart. I didn't think about that. I like that.
It just occurred to me now. I have no idea.
Very smart. I also know that K.A. Applegate, the internet wasn't really interneting at this time. So it wasn't a shithole yet. So K.A. Applegate actually had looked up different animals in encyclopedias and researched different animals and put those learnings into the books for the animals. So a lot of what's in there is pretty accurate in terms of that animal for that time. I mean, obviously, we are, more than 20 years from when the books were first released, maybe 25, 30 years. So obviously some of that information may have changed by now.
What did it say, 97 or something? 96,
yeah.
It looks like.
That feels about right, yeah. So, yeah, oh man, that almost 30 years. Gross.
That's crazy.
Anyway, yeah, so obviously some of the information may have been updated by now, but at the time that was accurate information, which I thought was really cool, that she was able to write it in a way that kids thought it was cool and also make it a little bit educational. So,
yeah.
There you go. So,
I'm trying to remember exactly the next sequence of events, but I guess it's basically the training montage, sort of, so to speak, of the book here, where he now goes to the other friends, and I think is it Cassie that's on the farm, the horse ranch or whatever?
Yes.
So she's the horse, right? She's a horse. And you're a horse, and so she's a horse, and at a certain point, like, a cop shows up, and they're pretty sure he's invaded by a Yeerk, because he's asking a lot of questions about, like, the kids who may have been walking home from the mall, and he's, like, definitely suspecting them of something or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, there were some kids shooting off fireworks. That's weird, right? No aliens whatsoever, just fireworks. And we want to bring these kids to justice. And they're like, that's so weird. I don't know anything about that.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So they kind of brush that off. There's also, and I guess it's just important to mention this at a certain point. At this point, Jake has alluded to it a few times, but he's got an older brother.
Tom.
Tom. That's right. I knew it was a dumb name. Yeah, Tom. Sorry if you're a Tom. If you're a Tom listener out there, I don't across the board think that it's a dumb name. I just think your parents could have done better, but that's fine.
At least
Tom is a great name. It's an awesome name.
At least it wasn't Thom. Let's be fair.
Thom. So Thom is. Jake's mentioned it a few times, but Thom, as of the past couple of weeks, hasn't been as communicative with his brother.
Yeah, he's been a little
as
distant,
he used to be.
Weird.
And so at a certain point, I think it's Tobias that's the first one, but it might be Marco, I can't remember. But someone is like, dude, do you think your brother is
a controller?
Do you think he's a Yeerk?
He's a little sus, Jake.
Yeah, because he's asking a lot of questions, and Jake gets so mad about it. And it's like, relax, dude.
Jake's
we all knew
hothead.
This is where it was going. Yeah, like, chill it out, dude. And so, like, I'm pretty sure he punches somebody in the face, and then he's like, yeah, you know what, you might be right, actually. Yeah, he's
he's like, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll have to do some research.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I will also say, too, and this is kind of irrelevant to the whole plot, but just to get it out there, because I think it's funny, but my man Marco, I don't know if you felt like this reading the book, but the whole time I was like, do you even like this guy? I was like, do you even like him? Like, he's not, like, he's kind of like dismissive about everything.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, dude, he's like, just leave me alone, but like is always hanging around. It's like, I was like, dude, just get other friends then. If you hate Jake so much, like that, he hates it.
Yeah, Marco,
it's the worst.
He's like the annoying funny guy. Also, we also have to keep in mind, like, they're still preteens, so anything as a preteen, that's dumb. I'm not gonna do that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's stupid, actually.
Actually, that's kind of stupid.
Actually, turning into an animal sounds really dumb, actually. Yeah, actually, I think it's really cool if I die. But so, at some point, Thom mentions that he goes to these meetings. What the sharing is what they call
The
them.
sharing.
This
Yes.
is kind of like a youth group sort of thing, but like also adults are there, and it's just like
Yeah, like
a bunch of
Scientology.
people being dudes, being bros, being dudes. And it's not gender specific. It's the
No.
gender non-conformative dudes. It's just
Yeah, we're the
everybody and
cool
anybody.
kids.
If you want to come and you want to share something, you just come. You kind of vibe out or whatever. And so they
Yeah.
start to get it in their heads. Our little cast of characters here. They're like,
Mm.
what if this is something to do with the whole? I don't know what I'm doing with my hands right now, but I'm gonna keep doing it.
Very
What if
good
this has something to
podcast.
do with the whole Yerk situation?
Hmm.
And maybe we could find out some more information. So they decide to infiltrate this
Yes.
gathering, this meeting.
This
Um,
meeting. Yeah, Tom invites them to, hey, come to the beach and we're gonna have a party. You're not gonna be made premium members yet, but
yeah,
maybe if they like
that's
you a lot,
that's pretty exclusive
maybe.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So they go to this thing. It's kind of weird vibes. Everybody's picking up on the weird
Hmm.
vibes. Also
Hmm.
worth noting, Tobias is like a hawk or a raven or a bird of some
A
sort.
red tail hawk. Red tail
That's
hawk.
what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, super specific. And he's yes, and he like won't change out of this form. He's kind of very insistent on it, and it's like getting a
He's like,
little
I love this
uncomfortable.
bird. I
Yeah,
love this bird. But I mean, you kind of get it because Tobias's backstory, I think his parents died. I can't remember if his parents died or not, but he lives with his aunt and his uncle on different coasts and they just shuffle him back and forth because they don't care and they're drug addicts or alcoholics or something. Like
yeah,
Doesn't have a whole lot of love in his life. So getting into this morph and being a red tail hawk, he is like super jazzed about it because I think it's the first time in his life he's feeling joy and like
yeah.
freedom.
He's just a freaky little dude. You know what I mean? So just let him just flap away, dude. And
Yeah, let
so
him flap away.
he's hawking around. And everybody's like, all right, I guess. He finds out that there's some sort of meeting that's happening on the beach with the premium members. And
Yes.
so, in order to get close to it, Jake is like, let me be a dog.
Let
I'll
me
just be a
morph my
little,
dog.
yeah, I'll just be a little, just stray dog chilling on the
Hmm.
beach and I'll overhear some stuff. Lo and
But he's got to
behold,
be careful
overhears.
that Tom doesn't see him because
Yeah,
it
because it
is
looks like
his
the dog.
family's dog. So
Yeah. Couldn't have found another dog on short notice, I guess. But, who am I?
it
Who am
was
I
the
to judge a
same
group of 12 year
day.
olds?
It was the same day. They didn't have any
Just
time,
poor time
Gianni.
management. Poor time management, I think. But anyway, he goes as the dog. He overhears some shit. And
Yeah.
some shit. Like that, basically, first of all, Thom, definitely a Yerk.
Yeah.
All the other guys, for sure, Yerks.
Hmm.
Um, Thom suspects that the kids might be his brother and his brother's friends, but he's not totally sure about it.
Yeah.
So
And do you remember
Thom kind of pitches.
who else he finds in the meeting?
Well, the cop, but the cop's outside of the
The
meeting.
cop and
Cop
also
gets what's her name in trouble.
probably Cassie. But he also finds their assistant principal, Chapman,
Right, right,
at a meeting with the premium Yerk members, which is like, oh shit,
which
it's
is
the
important.
assistant principal of our school. He's a controller. So
Yeah, with a very specific narrowing in on one school in the northwestern United
yes.
States in Forks, Washington. So they all go. I've committed to this being in the Twilight universe,
I
so
like
I'm
this.
going to pitch that the
Oh, I can't
entire
wait till Bella
54
comes
book.
in and just drags the story down.
Oh God, such a bummer.
She's just gonna mope
Just
in a corner.
love torn, moping. Yeah. so, Thom kind of pitches like we could either kill him or we could turn him, and then I think it's the vice principal who's like let's just see how it plays out or something like kind
Yeah.
of like non-committal about the whole thing. And then the cop gets mad at Cassie for like eavesdropping, and Cassie's like, "I ain't been dropping no eaves, sir, promise." And then they leave, like they're let go,
Mm.
and Jake's like, "Oh my God, Thom's for sure a Yerk. This is crazy. Also,
Mhm.
we have to go investigate the school
Because the
because."
assistant principal is also a Yerk. He might know where the pool
So
is.
they go. They go to the school.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, they find like a secret little door,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh my god, the Yeerk pool is under the school."
Yep. So
Craziness.
yeah, that's where
So
Jake
before they
morphs
could
the
really
lizard and sees it from that perspective.
right, the lizard, the front cover lizard, of course, a big moment for everybody. Yes, he has this whole stealth mission, reconnaissance, as the lizard figures that out. So before they actually go, they decide to get a bunch more morphs, and they're going to go to the zoo.
Yeah.
One of the girls' mothers works at the zoo.
Cassie.
Couldn't tell you which girl.
Cassie,
Thank you.
the animal
Cassie's
girl.
mom.
Her parents
Right.
are vets, so that's
Does
how.
Rachel do anything in this book? I'm like, I
Look,
feel like I've
Gianni.
mentioned Rachel 0 times.
She is Xena warrior princess. Okay, you don't
Who the
understand yet because you're not there.
She does one thing in this book, and it's
She's
when
tough.
she becomes an elephant. But that's, but yeah, this sidelined the whole time. Applegate doesn't like women. Who's to say? What?
Wow, Gianni, what a take! That's a hot take.
Just on the first book. Just on the first book. No,
Just on the
I
first
mean,
book.
maybe.
I
it
mean,
gets better.
Cassie's pretty good. Her parents provide pretty much all the animals for them to acquire and morph into.
Yeah, I would, if I had the ability to morph into animals, I too would befriend the person who works at the local zoo. So,
Yeah.
but they like kind of walking through this zoo. They get found out by security. It's this whole thing where they're having to like sneak around.
Mm-hmm. They have to split up.
Marco and Jake end up in the friggin' tiger enclosure.
Yeah.
And Jake is able to get the DNA for the tiger. They narrowly sort of escape.
Yeah. Which also,
that-
I just want to bring this up. When they're trying to acquire as many, like, dangerous, like, powerful morphs as they can, like, Marco went into the gorilla cage and got the gorilla morph. I'm like, why
Yes.
doesn't anybody else also do this? So they have more to choose from. Jake acquired
This
the tiger.
is-
Why didn't Marco also acquire a tiger? Just in case if
Yeah,
he needs it.
everyone should have this, like, the whole gambit of animals at all times. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And truly and honestly, the only reason is just very obvious, which is just that Applegate wanted the audience to be able to distinguish who was who as their different characters, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, I
That's
guess
fine.
we'll give it a slide because me reader, me big stupid sometimes. So,
Well, they're also kids. I don't think kids would think like, oh, we should cover our tracks and be as prepared as
Right.
possible. So
right, yeah, I too have the brain of a child, so I can't. But they narrowly escape this whole situation after being seen by a multitude of people. So anyone, anywhere should absolutely know that these guys are
Like,
100%
what are
the
these
one.
kids?
But I guess I don't know. But so anyway, they go now to the climax, the big finale here. This like last couple of chapters is going to be the infiltration of what's under the school. So they all go. Tobias, he's still that fucking hawk. He's been that
Goes
hawk
back into
for
the
a
hawk.
weirdly long time, dude. He's
And
like,
also, he didn't
I
go
don't know
with
if you want to
them-
be the hawk already.
he didn't go with them to the zoo, really.
He was just hawking
He's
around.
just hawking around. That's just all he
Just
wants to do
hawking
is
around.
just be a hawk.
Just
Um,
flip flop flapping. He doesn't give a shit about anything else. He just wants to be a
He
hawk
just
all the time.
wants to- Hawk boy Tobias.
He's like, human race could be dead, but as long as I'm a hawk, I don't care.
It's cool.
That sounds great.
But they after going to the gardens, which is the zoo, they all
Right.
meet back and they realize Cassie is missing. And Jake knows that tonight Tom is likely going to the Yeerk pool to feed the Yeerk in his head, so they can kind of follow him to the Yeerk pool, and that's how they're going to get in there. And they're like, we still don't know where Cassie is. I hope she's okay, you know.
Yeah.
And so they go to the school, and they see it's like after hours, and they see all these controllers lined up to go into the janitor's closet to open the secret door that leads down to the Yeerk pool. My question is, if it's after hours for the school, how did they get in? Don't they lock schools at night?
There's one open window. Of
Oh,
course,
that's
that
right.
they're
The
all
one
using.
open window that Marco
That
mentioned.
Marco found.
I forgot about that. Jake's like, how are we going to get in school? Marco's like, oh, I know a window that a teacher doesn't lock at night. So that'll work.
It's
So
so
clearly
specific.
everyone is just using this window to get into the
Yeah, everybody in the
school.
whole town. Because what's also funny is they figure out when they get down there that it's not just like a pool. It's literally an
It's
entire like
huge.
underground society filled with different alien species
Yeah.
and people.
And
And so like they're
cages.
all using one window to
One
get out of this.
all the people using the school are using the one window to get in and get down. But yeah, the Yerk pool is like massive. It's like 3 football fields long. It's huge, and they
Mm,
see different entrances and different doors throughout the cavern space. And it's clear that there are multiple entrances all over the city in different buildings. They
mm-hmm.
don't know where, they just know of the one entrance under their school. But this is way, way, way bigger than what they thought. Like literally hundreds of people, at least hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
people, that they're all
Um,
screaming. It's like hell. All the people are, all the humans are trapped in cages when they don't have a yerk in their head, and they have Hork-Bajir and Taxons escorting them back and forth between the cages and the yerk pool so they can't just like run away and escape. You just hear like the wailing of hundreds of souls of people just saying, please, somebody, anybody, help. I need to get out of here. I need to go home to my family. Um, and it's like a little soul shifting, I think.
yeah, it's pretty dark.
Mm.
But fortunately for us, it's all vibes from here on out because they see Cassie and
Mm.
she's being like escorted to one of these pools,
Mm.
and I can't remember exactly who has to break first, but for whatever reason, they start to morph into
Yeah.
their different animals to try to rescue her and rescue Thom as well because
Mm-hmm.
he's back. His Yerk is in the pool and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want it back in his head and he's like fighting against him. And so then everybody morphin time. And so
Morphin'
they
time.
morph it up. They become the morphin buddies
Yeah.
and they wreak havoc on this space. And this is
Yeah.
the one time I'll ever mention Rachel in this book because she's non-existent throughout it, but she becomes an elephant
Yeah.
and she starts just trampling over people.
It's
And it's
so
in graphic
violent.
detail too, which I was
Yeah.
also pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah, and Tobias swoops down and he rips out a Hork-Bajir's eyes, which that's going to be his trademark, just
Love it.
FYI.
Oh, okay.
He likes
Great.
ripping eyes out with his hawk talons.
Such a little
Um,
freak, dude. Such a little freaky little
Let
dude,
me take
dude.
your eyes.
Yes. Hope you're ready to not see. Yeah, no, crazy little freaky dude. And yeah, Jake is his tiger for him, whatever.
Yeah.
It all goes south when
Yeah, they're
Visser
all
3
fighting,
shows
they're all
up.
getting hurt, and yeah, they're like killing all these creatures in
Mm,
like fight or die essentially. And then yeah, Visser 3 comes in and he's like, "Oh, so there are Andalites here on Earth." And it's like, "Oh, he thinks they're Andalites.
yeah,
He
thank
doesn't
God.
know that they're humans." So, whoo.
Woof.
Yeah.
Dodged a bullet there, but then he
Yep.
becomes this monstrosity
Yeah.
as he's bragging about all of the like alien species from distant planets that he's been able to take the DNA from, and he
Mhm.
becomes this crazy looking thing that starts just hounding after him. It's
Mhm.
they try to escape with a bunch of people in tow,
Mhm.
including Thom, but they're only able to get one other person out of there. They are able to rescue Cassie, but it's only like
Yeah.
one other person that they're able to actually bring home, if
Yeah,
I can
which that
recall.
like sucks balls.
Yeah. Wait,
It's
what did that? Or maybe I'm misremembering because now I'm second guessing it because I remember there was one person on Cassie's back when she's a horse,
that was the
but
one person they saved.
they were able to save that person, right? That
Yeah.
person did not, because for some reason I was maybe it was an earlier part, but I was all of a sudden remembering that like someone else they tried to save got like
Yeah, there were 2 people on her back,
nabbed.
and then one person
Right,
fell off. Clearly not a
that's what it
horse
was.
girl.
Yeah, clearly not. Listen to
Um,
zero Taylor Swift.
exactly.
I'm just throwing that out there to get the Swifties to listen to the podcast, by the way, because big Swiftie myself. So
We do
I
love
am
a
a horse
Taylor
girl.
Swift. 100% horse girl over here.
Big
Um,
horse girl energy on
yeah.
this
So
pod.
so it's like they went down there to rescue Thom, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and try to get as many people out as possible. But in reality, they only saved like one person, which I think is a good, I don't know if I'm using this word right, like allegory for like war, essentially. Like you want to try to save as many innocents as you possibly can, but sometimes they all essentially like die or they all get captured and you feel like the effort was like like the end of Schindler's List, not to bring it to like Nazis and all that bullshit, but
Animorphs exactly like Schindler's List. A remake, some would say.
but but the end of that movie, he's like looking at all the people he saved. And he's like, I could have saved more. I could have saved more. And it's this
Mm,
kind of beautiful understanding of how much he cares and how much he changed his perception on these people.
right.
Um, and I feel like these 12-year-olds are now kind of experiencing a sense of that, where like they wanted to save people, even if they weren't necessarily related to them or know anything about them, but they just didn't. And so, like, the implications, I don't know if a child can even like process that amount of like grief and
Mm,
guilt, maybe like survivor's guilt,
yeah.
that's incredibly traumatic. And I feel bad for these kids, honestly. Like,
Nah, I don't feel bad for him. I'll just shove him if I see him.
fuck them kids.
I'm on the Yerk side, Team
Oh
Yerk.
my god, Dark Gianni
Dark Gianni
storyline.
coming out. Uh, so the sort of like epilogue of the book, I guess, just
Hmm.
to button it up, is so they failed in their mission. They're
Yeah.
sort of a little bit crestfallen, but the good news is that Visser 3 doesn't know who they are, thinks they're
Hmm.
Andalites, so they are able to return to their respective homes. And then while they're there, while Jake's sitting alone, he's kind of lamenting about the situation. Tobias comes in as a raven, and Tobias is like,
No,
or as a
red-tailed
hawk.
hawk.
Who cares? The fucking Flappy McFlaps over here. He's waddling around, and he's like Jake. Actually, I don't think we said this earlier, but when you're morphed, you can telepathically communicate with other people. Just for,
Oh,
but
yes, you can do that.
but he's like, Jake, I stayed in it too long. I'm stuck like this. And Jake's
And
like,
Jake was like, "No, turn
no.
back." He's like,
Yeah,
"Turn back, Tobias," and Tobias just stares at him with his hawk eyes, and Jake is like, "Turn back,
yeah,
turn back,"
yeah. And then they
and
kiss.
and then no, they don't kiss Gianni.
Ah, wishful thinking though. Come on, get a little bird
That's
on
the
man
part that
action.
Kay. That's the epilogue of the epilogue.
Right, right, yeah.
Man
That's
on
the
bird.
the fan fiction
Um,
version.
but yeah, it's kind of tragic now. Tobias is stuck as a hawk. I mean, he died as he lived.
Right,
Essentially, his human form died as he wanted to live, which is now he's stuck as a hawk.
right.
And part of me wonders, like, did he do that on purpose because his home life and his social life was so awful? I mean, I think at the beginning of the book, Jake even says, like, Tobias isn't really a friend of mine. He's just somebody that doesn't have any friends. So we let him hang out with our friend group
Yeah,
because he
which
doesn't
is
have
like just
anybody.
ice cold way to introduce a character. I mean, you wonder why the guy's a little freak. It's like a chicken or egg situation. It's like, did you just make him
Oh
this
my
way?
god.
You've really bullied him into being like, yeah, you know what? Maybe being a hawk is better than whatever life I got going on. Um,
Yeah. So the end of the book, it ends with until we're free, we fight. So, and that's how the book ends. So, like, what are your thoughts and feelings on this first book, Gianni? How do you feel it would make for like a TV series?
okay, so can I take those one at a time, or you want-
Yeah, absolutely,
okay? So
absolutely.
thoughts and feelings. I did like the book quite a bit.
Mhm.
There's like two facets of my brain, right? As I'm reading
Mhm.
these things, is it's like on the one hand, I'm trying to process it like now from some sort of, I don't know, mature standpoint, if you can call it that.
Mhm.
And then on the other hand, I'm trying to like put myself in the position that I would be as I think the demographic reading these books. And it's kind of like an interesting sort of thought experiment as you're bridging that gap between the two facets of, how your mind works, person you were and
Mhm.
the person you are. And I quite like the book in a sense of how successful I think it is at appealing to the demographic that it's geared for.
Yeah.
which I think is just like nerdy teens, like
Mm-hmm.
particularly like kids who aren't getting laid yet, but like but
Just for the record, teens should not be getting laid
yeah,
until
totally,
after they're
totally.
18. Just
Totally.
for
Don't
the
make the
record.
mistakes that I did as a
Oh
child.
my
But yes,
God.
but yeah, totally. But I definitely think that because there's just things that I think Applegate does really well, just from a sort of
Hmm.
critical standpoint. I think chief among them, I think the pacing of the book is just sort of immaculate. Like
Yeah.
this book out the rip just won't stop moving. It's
Yeah.
constantly every chapter is giving you something, giving you something, giving you something. And I think in terms of engaging with kids, um, or young adults, I
Hmm.
think that there is really no better pace to sort of establish for an adventure mystery thriller quite
Yeah.
like this. Um, so it just really is able to capture the imaginative circumstances and then just propel you to the next thing. It never gets too lost in the sauce on some of like what we may consider plot holes or what we may
Hmm.
consider like a lack of real world building or context. It just
Hmm.
keeps it moving. It's
Hmm.
like this is just the information that you're going to be allotted for this story. Let's go. And
Hmm.
so everything leads to some sort of interesting set piece somewhere that's going to be engaging for your imaginative space. And I just
Hmm.
think that's really smart in terms of framing a YA story. I think obviously the pitfalls of it are very exposition heavy,
Yes.
while
Yes.
also feeling a little vacuous in that exposition. It has a hard time really like addressing some of those questions because it's so concerned with keeping you moving that it doesn't
Hmm.
really want to like delay or spend any time talking about Jake's parents or like
Yeah.
really trying to build out the world in any sort of meaningful way.
Hmm.
It's more interested in just being like, here's the things we immediately notice in the vicinity. Like
Hmm.
you're in the Yerk pool, for example, and you see these different entrances and exits, and you immediately are met with the realization, this horrific realization, that the whole town is being corrupted by this thing. But it's not going to stop and linger to have them try to assess, like, how long ago was this built? What other
Yeah.
places in the town, just based on my geographical knowledge of whatever this town is, or like, it's like
Hmm.
forget all that. It's just
Yeah.
this is the thing. This is the objective point that we're trying to drive at. And so
But
it's a
I
trade
also
off.
think that that's kind of brilliant because that's also how a kid would think. You
Mm,
know, like kids are not going to be concerned with how did this get here? How long has this been here? Where are those other entrances coming from? You know, like
right.
kids are going to be focused on things that are in the moment and they're not necessarily going to be focused on, I mean, they don't even necessarily understand consequences yet, which
Right.
is what they are learning in this series. And also, because we have so many books to get through, that's so much more we can like expand on the world and maybe answer some of these questions, maybe
Right.
not. The fact that it's told from the perspective of essentially children's or preteens kind of gives the author that leeway of like, well, some stuff doesn't have to be answered right now. You know,
Right.
some of that stuff we can kind of gloss over for now because it's a YA novel essentially.
Right, right, yeah, and I do largely agree. I think that the other things, and again, you have a 54 book series, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, I understand that these things are going to improve probably as our own personal audience investment gets more invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it sells on any of the like sort of emotional aspects of it. I don't think it really
Mm-hmm.
effectively necessarily communicates even like the sort of harrowing nature of a lot of the things that they're experiencing as of yet.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that maybe that stuff will come in time. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to really get you, for an example, I think out the gate, right? Like it's hard to really get you in the mindset of being emotionally attached to the death of like that first Andalite, where the
Mm-hmm.
kids are all like super despondent, and I think Jake's even commenting like, I can't really even understand why I'm feeling the emotions I'm feeling for this guy, but it's sad, right? Like it is a
Yeah.
sad thing, and it feels like very much so Applegate just has to sort of hit these prerequisitional beats in order to make us
Mm-hmm.
feel a certain way about this thing, but it's not
Yeah.
really, it's just sort of telling the audience like how we're supposed to be feeling so that we can move on to the next thing, right?
Exactly,
So
because we're diving right into the middle of this story. Like
exactly.
we need to be at least have a foundation of like, oh, okay, this I should be worried about. This I should feel this way about. Oh, that's interesting. You know, why are they feeling like this in this situation? Um, which yeah, I like you said, the pacing of this was, I thought, great. It was just enough to give you like a taste of what's to come in the future. Um, and it's to me it was like really exciting just to read, and even as a kid I was just like, whoa, these kids get to do this, oh that's so cool, I want to be like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I really loved the storytelling aspects, and I think even though she kind of glosses over some things, I think she does a pretty decent job at like doing character arcs for the main perspective of the each book. So like,
Of the boys, yes.
yeah. Well, you haven't gotten to the girl books yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I'm excited to get there
mm,
because yeah, I do. I think that yeah, because I think that the most interesting characters are definitely Marco and Tobias,
mm,
just because they are archetypes that I think immediately people can align with and relate to,
yeah.
whereas the girls just feel underdeveloped in the same retrospect
Mm,
uh, regard, right? So
mm,
yeah, I'm excited to see how that evolves over time because obviously you had told me that it shifts protagonists or it shifts like central
perspectives from each book,
characters
yeah.
perspective as it goes. So I'm very much excited to see like how that evolves because getting in the mindset of particularly of the two women of this
Mm,
group, I think is going to be beneficial
yeah.
to retaining some semblance of investment in their
Mm-hmm.
characters. Um, the only other thing is, so I mean, it's very much like a serial comic in
Yeah.
the sense that it doesn't end, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But you know what you're getting. It's not like anyone is just picking up just the first Animorphs, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so you know you're getting into a long haul, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the foreseeable future. What's shocking to me, I think, maybe is a praise, maybe as a negative, I guess, depending on how you're viewing it, but um, very much so, it already lends itself to a television structure, which I
Yeah.
guess bridges into your other question, where, in my opinion, I would not choose to do Animorphs. Now, granted, I haven't read anything past this first book, so
Mm-hmm.
take my opinion for this perspective with a grain of salt. But I would not choose, just based on what the first book gives me, to do this as a movie or a movie series.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that perspective can change if, for example, I'm able to read, like, say, 3 or 4 Animorphs books, and I'm like, oh, this is a really concrete arc right here of these
Mm-hmm.
4 books.
You can
You can
incorporate
mash
that.
them into a 2-hour movie. Maybe that works.
Mm-hmm.
But as of now, the act structure of this book already lends itself to the act structure of a television show,
Mm-hmm.
particularly an episode
Yeah.
of television,
Yeah.
where, so like, just to, I guess, get into maybe the weeds of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? When I talk about, so act structure for television is different from act structure for film. Casey, I know you know this,
Yeah.
but this just for the listening audience, right? So, um, for a film, generally you adhere to a 3-act plot structure.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for main events that are going to hit on pages 30, on 60, on 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ideally, you want your film wrapping up at around 120 pages, right? Give or
Yep.
take. Now, obviously, that's not an exact science, but that's really what you're looking for. Each of those different acts is supposed to delineate a very specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your page 30 should probably be the major inciting incident that's
Mm-hmm.
going to propel the rest of the story. Now, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes your inciting incident happens first, and then you have a major significant event that's going to propel the main character into a further place
Mm-hmm.
that's going to lead to your page 60 climax, which usually is a reversal of whatever the central themes
Mm-hmm.
are. And then a 90 page is where you're going to want to hit your main climax, your final point where the main character is going to culminate with the central themes of
Mm-hmm.
the text and then get to your resolution, right? So typically when you're looking at act structure, that's what you're trying to sort of delineate out. When you're looking at a TV episode, it's a 5-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is that you want your cold open, you want those 3 acts that
Mm-hmm.
you have in a general, sort of film, and then you want a resolution hook that's
Like a
going to
little
happen
button.
on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that's going to tie the viewer back to want to watch the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting to me about reading this book is how easily it already adheres to an episodic act structure.
Yeah.
Where you have your cold open basically already matted out and framed for you. Mm-hmm. When they meet the Andalite, you have those three major significant events where it's the first one is the kids all sort of coming together and learning about their different abilities. You have the zoo sequence, which you're really building to in the middle of the episode, and then you have your major climax where they go into the Yerk pool for the first time, and then your epilogue for that fifth piece is obviously the thing that's going to hook the viewers back to say, hey, there's going to be more interesting stuff to come, which is that final scene with Tobias.
Yeah.
So it already has the framework of a great television episode. I don't even think you really have to fuck with it that much.
I agree. I totally agree.
I think that all you really have to do is, one, you have to have the budget, because I think that in our very limited experience of the Animorphs TV series that was made back when we were very young, it seemed like the budget was supremely lacking.
Yeah.
But two, I think that if that budget is able to accommodate the amount of visual effects that you're going to need for a lot of these morphs and for a lot of the animals that you're having in there, I think the only thing you really need to iron out is building out some of those character relationships, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And just making sure that a lot of the sort of character investment is there. Particularly for things that you're alluding to for whatever the rest of the series is going to be. And that's stuff that I can't really speak to yet because I don't really know what the rest of the series is going to hold. But I think that, just for a layman's example, right, I would want my cold open to focus a lot on Jake's home life, just because my expectation for where I think these books are going to go is building out what each of these characters are going to be experiencing in their everyday lives to then subvert whatever that's going to be into this twisted alien invasion story.
So you want to show like what their normal life is until it all gets flipped on its head, where now Jake, before, he didn't really have to keep any secrets. All he had to worry about was making the basketball team, which he didn't. Sucks to be you.
Exactly. Skill issue, brother.
But now he can't tell his parents where he's going. He can't be honest about the things that he experiences. He can't even tell anybody about his PTSD and his traumas now because nobody's going to believe him, and the people that do believe him will kill him. So it's very much a sense of kind of like, how would I put it? He's carrying a really heavy burden that, you know, kids his age, nobody can relate to him essentially. Like they're all kind of alone now in what the five of them know together, and all they have is each other. So it goes from being tight and close with their family and their other friends in their life to now having to distance themselves, essentially to protect both themselves and their family. So it's a really interesting juxtaposition, and I think it's something that, you know, a kid reading this book, they're never going to think about. Like if they have a good, happy family life, a quote unquote normal family, that's never going to cross their mind of like, I can't tell my family any of this that I'm going through because I'm going to die if I do, you know, and
exactly.
Even if they were to tell their family and their family were to believe them, if their family got, like, if the controllers got hold of their family, whole secret's blown, because now the Yerk is going to know, so the Yerks can see all the memories of the host that they are taking over, because they essentially, they go in the ear and then they flatten themselves over the top of your brain, and they like run through all of your memories to see what your speech patterns, they see who your friends are. Like there's no secrets. They're in your brain. They're seeing your life. So they can present themselves as a convincing doppelganger, essentially. So, you know, if Jake's parents were gotten a hold of by the controllers like Tom is, now they're going to know that if they know Jake's secret, they're going to know he can morph, and he's the one that's been fighting the Visser this whole time. And so that
Right.
puts them in so much danger and their family members in so much danger. So I really like that K.A. Applegate brings these adult themes to a child's story, and she treats, I think she like treats kids with respect, essentially. Like they are able to understand this. She's not like dumbing things
Mm-hmm.
down for kids reading these books. She's like, it is
Mm-hmm.
scary and there are consequences. And it's not like, oh, he's dead and
Mm-hmm.
we can just bring him back to life. Like, no, this person's dead and they're going to stay dead, essentially. So I think that's
Yeah.
pretty powerful in terms of a first book. So congrats on her for doing such a great job.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely am interested to see where the series goes. You know, I have
Mm-hmm.
my expectations. I have a lot of things that I think that they're going to surprise me on. So I am definitely invested. Um,
Yay! Who's your
but
favorite
yeah,
character in this book?
Tobias. I
Tobias.
love the
Okay.
weird little freaks. Come on, dude. You're
I
like,
should have
oh, I
guessed
just want
that.
to be a little birdie. I want to be a little birdie bird.
You know, it's
Little
funny.
weirdo, dude. I love you, dude.
I think Tobias is the second book. I think he's the focus of the second book. But it's funny because
Mm.
in the first book they describe him as blonde, and then the kid on Tobias's book has brown hair. So
Oh, weird.
sometimes I could kind of see like I'm like, oh wait, hang on a second. I thought, but
Yeah,
that was
that's a
just
little
the kid
funny.
model they had for the day for the book cover. Who
Right.
cares? Kids aren't going to pay
Yeah.
attention to that.
Yeah,
Um,
who cares?
so what do you think is going to happen in this next book?
So in the immediate next book, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be in the immediate next book, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I expect them to. I guess in the immediate next book, I expect them to at least get a lead on um, where they can undo this thing that Tobias is locked in this form forever. I expect that it's going to be a lot of reconnaissance stuff of trying to figure out where these other entrances to the yurt pool are,
Mm-hmm.
to see if there may be a weaker point. Um, I would suspect, I don't know if this is going to happen in the immediate next book, but I would definitely suspect that there's going to be some sort of discovery that this is about to, if it hasn't already, branch outside of this town.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're going to maybe this is like a 4 or 5 book arc, but my guess would be, you know, we solve the problem of this Yerk pool. We're like, yay, the world is saved,
Mm-hmm.
and then lo and behold, the next town over also has a Yerk
An
pool. The next
even
town
bigger
beyond that also,
one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I would suspect that that's gonna happen. Um, and Tobias is a little freak, so if we're following his perspective, then he's probably gonna, you know, just do some little freaky stuff. You
Gonna
know
do
what
some
I mean?
freaky
He's
deaky stuff.
gonna try to like bird kiss
Rachel.
on his little biddy over there. Yeah, like he'll probably do some fucking freaky little shit, dude. So yeah, those are my expectations. Obviously, you already know what happened, so I can't ask you the same
I
question.
mean, I
But
know some things that happen, and I know some things that don't happen. So, um, but like I said, I didn't read through this whole series. I've never finished it, and I've always wanted to finish it.
yeah,
So I am really excited. I am also excited to get to the books that essentially have no real purpose. They're just kind of filler books, like filler TV episodes. Because I want to see you
yeah, that'll
upset,
be
Gianni.
thrilling.
I want to see
Oh,
you upset.
I will get furious. I
They'll be
will
like,
get
"Oh,
so
it
mad.
was all a dream."
I hate that shit. I will let it be known too. If Applegate is gonna waste my time, why I oughta, you know what I
How
mean?
dare she? How
Yeah,
dare she?
I will be toxic as hell. No, it's gonna be great. I'm actually almost looking more forward to those books as well because sometimes I like just letting out a little rage on a
Yeah,
podcast, you know?
it's fun. It's fun stuff. So yeah, so this is, I guess, the end of our very first episode. Um, just a heads up to anyone listening. This is my first time putting together a podcast. I'm still new at everything. I'm still working out audio levels and things like that. So please don't shit on the audio quite yet. I have a decent microphone, but I'm still like, I'm a loud person and I'm trying to measure the waves so it doesn't blast out the microphone every time I'm speaking. So that's a
Yeah.
work in progress. Please be gentle on my fragile soul. Um,
No, yeah.
Gianni's a
I got
complete
a new
pro, so
microphone, so
you sound good.
even my audio might not be good either. So.
We're working on it. It's a work in
Yeah,
progress. I promise it will get better the more that we do this.
yeah.
I haven't blasted out too much today, I don't think. So that's
Not
good.
yet.
Um, Also, at some point, I will probably have an email address set up so people can shoot us an email and ask us questions, leave us constructive criticism, or just like if you want to say, hey, that's cool too. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, thoughts and opinions and all that good stuff. I would love to have some interaction with this podcast because I think it's cool hearing other people's perspectives and opinions and things like that. And especially if you're like in the film industry also and you have thoughts and feelings about how to shoot something, we would love to hear that. So,
for
Gianni, with
sure.
this last little bit, what would you rate this book from 0 to 10? 10 being amazing,
Oh, 0 to
fantastic.
10.
Yeah,
So, full disclosure, I have a Storygraph account, which
a
I
story graph.
have
What
a
is
Goodreads
that?
as well, but I don't. So I okay. So
I used
this
to have
is plug.
Goodreads. I don't use it so much
I'm
anymore,
plugging
but
Storygraph right now. But so I have Goodreads as well, but I don't ever review on Goodreads because I hate the 5-star system. And
ah,
Storygraph at least has more points to the scale, so you could do like point fives, you could do 0.25, you could do 0.75.
oh, you're
So I
very
like it a little
particular.
better.
Uh-huh.
But Storygraph is like less social, so it's
Mm.
like I have my like secret account, kind of thing. But like a couple of my friends follow me on there, so I did
Sick.
actually rate the book on Storygraph, but it only goes up to 5.
Uh-huh.
So I guess for a 10 star rating,
How would you double it?
um, I would give it like I think I like a 7. I think a 7.75, something around there.
All right.
What would you give it?
I would probably give it an 8.5. I feel like it was a solid beginning. Everything was paced really well. There are consequences and they are scary. There is violence. I mean, Marco morphed as a gorilla, literally ripped someone's body in half with his
Yeah,
bare
what's not to
hands.
love there?
That is a 12-year-old doing something absolutely terrifying to know you have that kind of
Yeah.
power. How do you not go power hungry after that? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like
would have
that
PTSD
could really mess someone
nightmares
up.
of that for forever. Wake up in
They
cold
do talk about
Vietnam
having
sweats.
nightmares.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So scary stuff. But yeah, great. So Gianni, would you like to plug anything for yourself while you're
I'm
here?
just plugging the next episode, man. I'm all
Yeah.
Morphin Buddies pro. I mean, you could follow me on social media if you'd like. I think on
Mhm.
Twitter I'm at Gianni_Demaya. So I'm sure that'll be in like the show notes or something. So you could definitely
Yeah.
follow me on there. That'll be my plug.
Cool. And you could just follow me. I'm just on Instagram because I'm boring. I'm a boring millennial at KACEE and then 6 Ys. That'll be in the show notes because all the other
6 Y.
Casey's were taken.
I,
So I
I
had to
always
do two
forget.
E's
I
and
always
six
forget your
Y's.
6 Y.
All the other, how are there other KACEYs? Like, I don't understand. I thought,
Casey.
Casey! I thought I was the only one for a long time, and then I learned I wasn't, and I felt betrayed
Mm.
because I wanted to be special. Anyway, that's how it happens when you become an adult. You learn you're not special.
Yeah. Can't wait for these fucking kids to learn that. Show 'em around.
Well, I think Tobias has already learned it. Anyway,
Right, right.
this has been Morphin Buddies, and we look forward to doing the next episode, and hopefully we will see everyone enjoying the second episode.